So a while back, I made a video talking about my thoughts on modern SpongeBob as a Spongeboomer. And honestly, that was going to be its own standalone thing. But then this episode showed up on my radar, that being A Fish Called Sandy. Now the special thing about this episode is that it decides to go for the classic season's art style. Sort of. I'll be honest, even though I'm aware that this is more nostalgia bait for the old fans, I still want to see how something like that went. Now, like I said in that video, I'm not going to become a SpongeBob reviewer or anything like that. In fact, I'm only talking about this episode because I think this is a rare or even one-time thing. And I'm sure some people want to know what a Spongeboomer such as myself thinks of this. This episode involves Sandy being upset that she can't experience the ocean like everyone else can, so she decides to implant fish DNA into herself so that she can grow gills, now being able to do lots of things without her normal diving suit. After a while of this though, she begins losing her fur in exchange for scales. However, she then de-evolves into a monster for some reason, so SpongeBob has to find a way to fix that. SpongeBob does eventually manage to fix Sandy, and that's basically the end of the episode. Okay, let's actually begin with the classic season's art style. Some people have called this the Season 1 art style, at least for the backgrounds. However, speaking of the backgrounds, this only seems to fully apply to said backgrounds though. We definitely don't get the Season 1 character appearance or animation style back, opting instead for something similar to the other early seasons. However, due to the digital nature of modern SpongeBob, at times they can look almost pasted in, and in general everything feels slightly off. It isn't too terrible, but it's definitely noticeable. Also, one of my gripes with the most recent SpongeBob seasons was the overly silly faces and over-the-top animation, which didn't feel nearly as earned, unlike the original seasons. And yeah, okay, that's still the case here. It honestly feels like a bit of whiplash seeing an attempt at the classic style, while also trying to keep the over-the-top nature of the modern seasons. They just clash too much. So do I think the change to a more classic art style really fits? I mean, in some areas it certainly does. This scene with the hooks actually looks pretty great. And aside from things like Sandy's facial expression, it could easily pass for a Season 2 episode. Of course, then they have to ruin it with SpongeBob being way too wacky. But overall, what do I think of this episode? It's actually pretty decent. I don't think it's incredible or anything, and I still think that it doesn't quite strike the balance that is classic SpongeBob, but I'm still impressed. When I went into the episode, I figured that it would be modern SpongeBob trying to poorly imitate classic SpongeBob, especially in the art style area. But it wasn't too bad. I still think that there could have been more adjustments done to this if they really wanted to sell the classic SpongeBob feel. I honestly doubt they would have gone for the Season 1 character design since that might have been too much of a departure. But even going for the designs of the other early seasons, I would have just run the characters through a slight softening filter so that they don't look quite so pasted on in certain scenes. And of course I would have relaxed some of Patrick's expressions a bit, and done away with the wackier aspects that are inherent to modern SpongeBob. I'll also mention the characters briefly. Sandy was mostly fine, even if a bit more wacky than her original season's counterpart. Patrick still had a bit too much of that modern season's level of dumb to him, and SpongeBob was too goofy for my liking, though there were some scenes where he was better. My only big gripe about this episode is that despite trying to go for the classic season approach, it doesn't commit to it all the way, so it feels like this sort of bizarre mixture of both classic and modern styles, neither of which fully complement one another. I think the best way to summarize this is how I summarize one of the Modern Patchy segments in my Modern SpongeBob video. It feels less like an actual classic SpongeBob episode, and more like someone trying to imitate a classic SpongeBob episode, getting somewhat close, but ultimately not there. It's still a decent episode though, even if not the greatest ever. Well, that's all for now, and I just want to discuss this episode since I don't know if this is a one-time thing, or if they're going to try more episodes in a classic style, but I guess we'll see, won't we? Well, okay, maybe not we, since I'll probably just stick to watching the classic seasons for the rest of time. In any case, thank y'all for watching, and take care.